Welcome to Candidate Profiles, brought to you by Millis Community Media. I'm Peter Themistocles. I'm a member of the Millis Community Media Board of Directors, and I'm happy to host these profiles. Our Candidate Profiles series is designed to help you, the Millis voters, get better acquainted with the candidates in this May's local election. All the candidates, opposed or unopposed, were invited to our studios for 15 minutes to answer questions submitted by Millis residents. I will ask the questions on behalf of the residents and will allow approximately 1.5 minutes for each answer before moving on to the next question. Each candidate will have 1 minute at the beginning and at the finish for an opening and closing statement. Now, joining me now is Pete Jurmain, a candidate running for re-election to the Select Board. Hi, Pete.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming in, and please take it away with your opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and to be a part of the Millis Community Media hosting this session. As you know, I'm a member of the Select Board, have been for 3 years. This is the end of my first term. And if I could emphasize anything, when you're on the Select Board, it's critical that you have experience with the town meetings that you've attended, with the town committees you've been on, with understanding the budget, and basically overall understanding the operations within the town hall and the individuals who make up our wonderful staff within our town hall environment. I come from a background that's primarily been large business for the first 25 years of my life at IBM, AT&T. I've managed major projects in the era of multi-million-dollar projects and had revenue responsibilities in the billions of dollars. The background I have has played well to allow me to work with the town and to talk with you about how we as a town can better manage the budget constraints that we are facing at this time, and they are quite significant. One last thing, my background also includes a tour of service in Vietnam as an Army officer, so I thought I'd just add that as one other piece of information. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete, for your opening remarks. The first question, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for the town and the Select Board, and how will you address them? Please be as specific as you can.
Right now, the town's facing major budgetary crises. We have schools that are being shortfalled as a result of significant questions on how we're going to manage mandates. We have funding mandates, we have to meet them, and we have an obligation to those in the community who need these services to meet them. But we don't have the funds for continuing at the level of spending that we're at right now. We have a need to deal with the infrastructure of our buildings. Right now we have some brand new buildings, but we have coming up very shortly the need to upgrade our high school, middle school with renovations. We have a new senior center that's being planned. We have maintenance of existing facilities, and in fact, in the building we're in right now, we have maintenance issues that are going to have to be addressed very shortly. So big problems for renovation. And we have the ongoing services for our community. We have seniors, we have new people in town, and we have the needs to attract new business into our town.
How do you propose that Millis be proactive when it comes to green tech, building and maintaining roadways, managing sewer and water, and affordable housing?
Well, there are a lot of different topics there, so let's take a few of them. I'm not sure I can answer all of them. We do have an economic development committee in town. Bob Weiss has been very proactive in making this a green community, in getting grants to meet the needs of the community and to get us established with leads and other capabilities that put us in a good position with respect to other towns for getting grants in the future. In terms of water and sewer, we have an obligation to meet our contractual obligations with Charles River Pollution Control District. They set standards that we have to meet, when we unfortunately are somewhat over those discharge rates right now, and their standards are in fact set by the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. So as a town, we have to begin to manage that more closely, and we're looking at other capabilities. We have seriously run out of sewer capacity at this time. So there are things known as package plants and other things that we're looking into.
And the maintaining of the roadways?
The roadways have always been an issue. We, in the last 2 years, have been able to put very close to $500,000 for the first time into replenishing our roads. We have more coming this year, although, again, some of the funding mandates for the schools have precluded us from being able to apply the funds we had hoped to. But even so, we are putting a significant amount of money into our roads this year.
What new initiatives do you have in mind to court businesses to town?
Well, I'll reflect back again to our Economic Development Committee. Our various committees like Energy and so forth, in fact, do look at trying to court business for the town. And to that end, we as a town have to look at the types of business that we're looking for. I've talked with our representatives, specifically Representatives Linsky and Dooley. They have, in fact, brought some opportunities to us. Unfortunately, in a couple of cases, the buildings they wanted to occupy and use, the managers and owners of those buildings were unwilling to sell at the prices that seemed to make sense, so the opportunities moved elsewhere. We're continuing to court business, and we're looking at a variety. We don't want heavy manufacturing. The town isn't good for that. On the other hand, companies that have remote offices, satellite offices, that have professional services and others are in fact potentially ideal candidates, but we are looking at a variety of things to bring more business into this town.
What actions or decisions of the Select Board may impact your business or home specifically? When actions or decisions of the Select Board may impact your business or home specifically, how will you remain impartial?
Let's be very clear. I have no issues on that because I have no business that's going to be impacted by anything I do on the board. I volunteer a great deal of my time to the town. I've been acting director of IT. I was there for 4 years until we were able to bring someone in. I've migrated the town to whole new areas in the cloud and gotten much greater security into our systems. But in terms of my being impacted or having to recuse myself as a result of something that might be in conflict, I haven't had any of that issue. So in answer to your question, I don't think it's totally relevant to me.
How important is transparency to you? What will you do to remain transparent and keep Millis residents in the loop of board decisions?
Transparency is an interesting word. The key is, in my estimation, openness. Making all your decisions and discussing all the issues in an open environment and then letting the people make a choice. And that's what we've tried to do. We not only adhere to the open meeting laws, we bend over with respect to bringing in Millis Media and others to be at each one of our meetings almost every time. There are times it can't be done, but to the greatest extent possible, we encourage that. We post all of the meetings. We would encourage more participation. If there's anything I would advocate differently, it's not that it isn't transparent or open, it's that we get very little attendance from the community. These meetings are open to everyone, and it's there when you deal with the issues that you begin to see the complexity, but understand how deep the issues are that we're dealing with, whether it's water or sewer or PFAS or building a new school or looking at a senior center or a community center. All of these issues are discussed in great detail and over many months. So I encourage the community, please tune in, listen to what's going on, and feel free to participate. We always try to encourage participation at these meetings.
How will you work to negotiate with those who oppose your positions?
You know, part of the key to a democracy is accepting that there will be opposition. And that's important. To a certain extent, conflict is critical to how our democracy functions. What's also critical is that you listen to each side of the argument and you draw your conclusions and your final recommendations from what has transpired in these conversations. To that extent, I again encourage everyone, to the greatest extent possible, watch these meetings, participate in these meetings, and when the time comes, take the most important action you can in a democracy and get out there and vote. Every vote counts. It doesn't matter which position you take. Your right and your duty is to vote and express your view on every issue that's presented.
Are you in favor of the proposed senior center? How might this project impact property taxes and those already struggling to pay for other projects that are already built?
That turns out to be a relatively complex issue. To say the least, of course I'm in favor of a new senior center, though I think it probably is more likely to be a community center. But there's a major issue in there, not least the cost, but how it's going to get paid for. The community has already faced up to major costs for a new library, a new police station, a new fire station, a new DPW facility. We know we're going to have to face up to renovation or reconstruction of the middle school, high school in the not too distant future. So there's a tax burden that they're all facing. On top of that, we have to be sensitive to the seniors themselves. I meet with them on a fairly regular basis. I go down and have lunch with them. And a lot of the seniors are telling me they can't afford any more tax increase. Well, what I'm hearing is that a new facility may cost on the order of $12 to $18 million or more. And that's something they're telling me, we'd like a new facility, but we can't afford the taxes. So we're going to have to balance that. I don't know what the answer is yet, and we're looking at it. I certainly have no interest in imposing additional taxes on those with fixed incomes who are basically at their limit of being able to handle it. On the other hand, the community does require that we do something, whether it's refurbishing existing facilities or working something out. So none of this is locked in concrete, and this is again an issue where we have to listen to what all parties have to say.
What do you see as some of the weak areas in the operation of town departments, and how would you improve them?
I'm going to counter that question a little bit and say, if you're not familiar with the employees of this town, we are very fortunate to have an incredibly dedicated staff in this town. They know their jobs, they execute their jobs in superb manner. I've had the privilege of working with them now for literally 12 or more years. And so the question should be framed, what can we do better as a town with what we've got? And how can we proceed into the future with the staff that we've got and augment it as necessary in the future? And this is a part of controlling the costs of the town. We have people who are dedicated, and we saw that throughout the COVID crisis. Don't get me wrong, it's been a tough period. I went into office just before COVID hit, so I've been living through it from the entire town. But think of this, we've expected our employees to be in town almost every day throughout this crisis, with the exception of a brief period of shutdown. They have been in here, every one of them, working to ensure that our community was able to meet its needs and the needs of our residents, whether they're elderly, whether they've been hurt, whether there's sickness in the family, whether they can't meet their own food needs. They've been there to work with us. And I've been working with them, but I think this community owes a great deal to the existing staff.
What do you think is the best way for Millis to attain the 10% affordable housing goal?
I have proposed on several occasions that we need to set up a policy for new building and infrastructure in this town. When we authorize new development, whether it's multifamily dwellings or single-family dwellings, I have been advocating that a certain percentage of that must be for affordable housing. I think we have a better chance in the coming year to begin putting a policy in place so that every individual who comes into town who wants to present us with new construction understands that there's a certain amount of affordable housing that goes with the privilege of building in this town. And I mean that sincerely. When you come into this town and build anything, it's a privilege. This is a wonderful community. It's small, it's tight-knit, yet it's open. And we couldn't ask for more. What we need to ask for is that those who choose to participate in this community meet the needs of the community, and that includes affordable housing.
What is the one thing or the one skill people may not know about you yet that qualifies you for this elected position?
I wish I could answer that easily. There is no one skill in my estimation that qualifies an individual for this, what I consider one of the three most important jobs in the town. We are the ones on the select board who have to make decisions and sign the documents and work with our state and federal elected officials to get the things done. If you are not familiar with the process of doing that, if you're not prepared to learn new things every day, to work with the town administration and to work with your elected officials, then you've got a major problem. And in my case, I feel I've learned the skills to work with them. I talk with Mr. Representative Linsky and Dooley on a regular basis, and in fact, as late as this last week, Representative Linsky has assured me that he's put in for additional funding of our PFAS facilities. I've worked with Representative Dooley to work on mandates and again getting PFAS. I've talked with Congressman Jake Alkenlas to get additional funding and to get funding for the upcoming problems we have with respect to the mandates that we have to meet financially for concerns in this town with respect to schools and other situations.
Please just go on to your closing statement.
I have had the privilege over the last 3 years of working with our staff in town, our town administrator, and the residents of our town. Believe me, it is a privilege. It's also a lot of work to try to meet the needs that are expected of everyone. Not everything can be done the way we hope. It is my hope that over the next 3 years, if I'm reelected, that I'll have the opportunity to meet with many of you and to talk with you about what you think is best for the town. It's not my opinion that matters, it's your opinion. The only thing you can do is get out and exercise what's the most important thing in a democracy: vote. Attend meetings to the greatest degree possible, be aware of what's going on in town, participate to the greatest extent, and I would encourage that. So please get out there and vote. Obviously, I would love to have you vote for me, but the most important thing is get out and express your views by voting.
Thank you, Pete Jurmain, for joining us and our candidate profile series. And thank you for watching. We'll see you at the polls on May 9th, and don't forget to attend town meeting on May 2nd at 7:30 p.m. at the high school.